Good day. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Write and Shine, Shining Through Your Words series with incredible authors like Mia Hanks. She is visiting me again. Yay! As we just had so much to talk about during her first visit to me. And today we will be diving into a very, I would say, challenging subject that there's not a lot of content, that we can talk about overall, and that is financial abuse. Mia, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be back again.
It's a very challenging topic. We've gone through your topic of your book, Bridemaid, a memoir, and we're speaking about narcissistic abuse. With the abuse, there's a lot to talk about financial abuse. If you can start the conversation, by how would you define financial abuse?
So financial abuse, I think is something that people don't really think about, and it's just not really talked about. But when you make a decision to leave a narcissist, specifically a narcissist, oftentimes a tactic that they use is financial abuse, and they control you with finances. So, they make it difficult for you to leave. They make it difficult for you to exist without them. Often, the narcissist controls 100% of the finances. And, to leave, to up and leave them, it takes money, it takes resources. And if they are controlling all of those resources, I think financial abuse keeps a lot of women stuck in these narcissistic marriages for decades. And it's just something that people don't talk about.
I agree with you. And, I think the mental strain it takes on the victim, to have to beg for money, have to, it really is, there's different ways the narcissists use basically to frustrate their victim. And, we spoke a little before we jumped to record, but for me, you also identified a few ways. If you can please share like tactics that the abuser will use through finances.
Well, in my situation, and I'm sure everybody's is slightly different, but for example, my ex-husband, he had multiple bank accounts. He had a credit card and then he had a debit card. Well, I didn't have a credit card. He only gave me a debit card. So therefore he could control what I could spend. And I think that was I think maybe it was in his mind that one day I might try to leave. And when I did leave, he was able to then just drain that bank account, which left me nothing, because I didn't have a credit card. I couldn't charge. I could only spend what was in that bank account. So it was a real control tactic that I didn't realize until after I left. Wow, if he drains this bank account, I have nothing. I can't buy food. And I just, it wasn't something I thought about before I left. I was not thinking clearly. But that is, it's true. When you leave, you really do have to have some finances in place. So it's a very manipulative and evil tactic that they use.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I've realized as well, he who controls your finances controls your decisions because there's no way
Yes.
you can make decisions based because it's most fear-based. If they basically have a hold on your finances, then you don't have clear decisions almost.
Right. You don't. And they, if they control the finances, they control your ability to exist.
Yes.
I fortunately had my parents and they were able to help me out when, during all of this divorce when he was draining the bank account. But a lot of people don't have that resource. And so that does, it's greatly concerning to me to think how many women are in these types of marriages where there is abuse and they simply can't leave because they don't have the resources, they don't have the funds to get out. Leaving, it takes money to leave, right? You have to have money to eat. You have to
Yes.
have money to for a hotel or wherever, you have to have a place to stay. You've got to be able to pay rent. And if you don't have access to the bank accounts, what do you have? And so I think it's, sometimes for some women, it's the lesser of two evils to just stay in the abusive household because at least you're being financially cared for.
I agree. You just have such a wonderful, wise way to describe these situations. And you know what I've also seen, Mia, is overall, the abuser, it's almost like they get a kick out of it. I will never understand it. What do you think? It's control, but do you think there's some sort of sinister type for the narcissist? They get a thrill to see someone suffer.
They do. And it's funny how you can go from being quote unquote the love of their life
Yes.
while you're with them. And then as soon as you leave, it's like you're nothing to them. I mean, how can somebody go from one extreme to the other? Well, because the first extreme wasn't even real, right?
Yes.
They don't love anyone. But yeah, I think once you leave and you have betrayed them, so to speak, they want to see you suffer. That was my situation. I had been married for 29 years, and we had two children together, yet he had no concern for my well-being after I left. It was as if though, you left and now you're going to pay the price.
Yes.
And I do think they enjoy it. It's very sinister, and I do think not only do they enjoy it, I think they find humor in it. At least
Yes.
in my situation, they actually think it's funny
Yeah.
to watch us suffer. And what a horrible outlook. It's one thing to be mad because your spouse left, but you don't, relish in their misery, and you don't find humor in their difficult. So yeah, it's very sinister, and it's just a terrible way to think.
I agree with you. And it's almost like a form of punishment. I'll show you, but that I'll show you never stops. It's like, you do stay the mother of their children at the end of the day. So you would think, you move into a different role. You're now, even if you're not spouses anymore, at least, empower you to look after his child, your children. You would think that.
Yeah, definitely. And my situation was different in that my kids were both grown when I left. So I didn't have to deal with custody and
Mm.
child support and all of that. But I understand that is, that's not fun dealing with a narcissist.
It's
But
heartbreaking.
yeah, they just don't care. They just don't care about you as a person and your well-being, whether you are living on the street or it just doesn't matter to them. And I think, the more hardship that I encounter, the more it he finds enjoyment in it.
Yes.
And I just think it's sick, really.
It really is. And I think, if you ever needed confirmation you did the right choice to leave, it's almost like they give you a gentle reminder to say, this is why I left, the whole time. Because
Yeah.
it's like you pick it up when you're in it, but you don't realize how bad and toxic the situation is. But after you left, it's like, oh my gosh, this was bad.
Yeah, and I think like I say, I think a lot of women stay in these marriages
Yes.
because of the financial abuse. But I will say, even with the hardship that you might encounter in trying to leave, it's still better on
Yes.
the other side of abuse than living in that type of toxic home.
Speak my
So I mean, you
language.
can find your
Yes.
way. You can find your way, and it might not be easy, but at least you are in a healthier space, even though the finances may not be there, you can be healthier.
I love
Um,
that. I
so
love
I just
that.
don't think it's worth staying in a toxic marriage just for the money. Um, and
Absolutely.
and for me, I gave up quite a lot. My ex-husband is a very wealthy man. And so I think, you do have to, it does give you pause, and you do think I'm walking away from a very comfortable lifestyle, and
Yes.
I don't know what's ahead. Um, so, it is a risk, but just for that, just feeling healthier, it's so worth it.
And I do think, Mia, I also, years ago, I basically lost a lot, not only financially, like you say, and that was quite traumatic on its own, a certain lifestyle, and suddenly you struggle, day to day and all this stuff. And I do think the whole encouragement today is to tell everyone, like you just said, yes, you might lose a lot of money, you might lose the comfort, but you will win yourself in the process. And that we should not, lose sight on. What's most important, if you're doing okay, everything is okay around you.
That's true. It will fall into place. But yeah, you do give up a lot. You do give up some of that security. And the thing is, I mean, in a divorce, you're obviously going to get a settlement. But one thing you do have to keep in mind is in that divorce process, the narcissist will do everything they can to make sure you get as little as possible.
Yes,
And in my situation, I came out okay. But I'm sure a lot of people don't, even though I came out okay, my ex-husband, I'm certain, hid money. They do all kinds of things to see that you get as the absolute bare minimum that they have to give you. So it is something to keep in mind, you do have to kind of plan for that, but oh, it's so much better being out of that toxicity.
and the previous episode, I couldn't say enough how much respect I have for you, for talking out loud about this, and just, talking your truth, speaking your truth about not only, and you can, yeah, you're not emotional about it. So it's not as if you're like, he's this and he's this, it's like, this is the reality. This is your truth of what he did. So I have
Right.
so much respect that you talk about because it's very hard. I think if you've been through a lot of years of abuse, to actually speak about it, because that's what bullies don't want. They don't want to be outed.
Right, they don't, but I think I just came to realize that I had no idea when I was in this marriage how many people, how many women are in the same situation. You tend to think you're the only one. And
Exactly.
when I got out and started realizing, wow, there are so many women who are quite literally trapped living these lives, and probably no one knows about it. That was my case. Nobody
Yes.
knew. Everybody thought I was on top of the world.
Yes.
So it's heartbreaking to think how many women are stuck living in these toxic marriages.
Yeah, I love that you say that because it definitely is almost that white picket fence type of, this cage that you used for your front cover, which I love.
Yeah, yeah,
Because everything looks so, bling bling and perfect on the outside, but in the inside, you're the loneliest person on earth, and you're being basically it's toxic. So you are really rotting almost inside, if I can sound that dramatic.
yeah. You are, and I think there's kind of a misconception, it's kind of a stereotype where
Yes.
we want to assume that if someone, is well off financially and they have this beautiful home and everything just looks great and we tend to think, well, there's no way that there could be abuse inside that house.
Yes.
We think of, it's just stereotyping. These people have all this money and they really have it together and there's no way that anything could be wrong. And oftentimes those are the homes where there is something wrong.
Agree.
And we just don't think of it. People just, they think, wow, you've got it all. But
Yes.
oftentimes those are those homes, the big homes with the gates. I think is a lot of misery going on sometimes in those homes.
Yes. And it's very sad, for me. Also, what I've learned, Mia, is the connection between your self-esteem and what's going on behind that walls. The mental breakdown, the emotional breakdown through the finances. Finances is a massive way to really break someone down.
It really is. And in my marriage, my ex-husband, made mention of it all the time, and said,
Yes.
look what I can provide for you. Look what I was able to buy you. And it wasn't for me, it was for him. It was all about how he looked. But constantly being reminded, you're so lucky to be married to me because look what a good provider I am. And I think the narcissist places a lot of value on those finances, and basically says, look, if you ever leave, you're going to lose all of this.
Wow.
So there's a lot of control that comes with having money. Yeah.
And so many conditions, like you have to look past certain stuff for the money, for the sex. It's almost like you're being bought in a way as well.
Very much so. I mean, looking back, I really do feel like I was just sort of an object,
Yes.
that he purchased. And in his mind, he had money and he could buy anything he wanted.
The trophy wife.
And yeah, and he just I felt like I was just one of his possessions. I mean, that's how he treated me.
Yes.
I think for him, for narcissists, people are possessions. They don't see
Yes.
people as humans or partners. They see them as possessions. And yeah, it's really sad.
It's very sad. And I teach my son, empower your woman, like empower
Yeah,
her, when you marry one day, make sure that she's financially independent. And really, I think society needs to talk more about how women can generate more income because I do see the link between emotional, and your mental health, everything. You can go on more holidays, more spa days, all that stuff
yeah.
if you've got more income as well.
I think probably most women who have been married to narcissists would agree that they tend to not want you to work. They
Yes.
tend to not want you to generate income. I know I started just a little hobby business. I do fiber arts, I crochet,
Wow.
and I had a little business, and he wanted me to give it up, and he told me, and it was it was a
Mhm.
stress reliever for me. I love to create, and
Yes.
it was good for me mentally. And he told me, he said, you'll never make as much money as I do, and so you're wasting your time, give it up. They don't want you to make money, they don't want you to be successful outside of them, because
Yes.
that takes their power away from them, they think.
Wow. They think so. I mean, it's a compliment if you are with, like for me, the stronger my friends, everyone are around me, the better. I want them strong.
Yeah, you would think that, that your husband would want you to,
Yes.
realize your dreams, or, have your hobbies, have things you're good at, and be proud of that. But I think the narcissists, no, they do not. They see it as control is slipping out of their hands. If you are earning your own money, that's a threat to
That's
them.
a threat, 100%. And you and I were talking about, I just returned from my trip in Botswana, and I'm so excited, to have met incredible single moms there as well. That's starting like arts and crafts. So I'm going to just show what I showed you as well. So they weave this it's actually from nature, like they take this from nature and they weave these baskets, and we're going to call this baskets of hope. I choke up if I talk about them because they just are so brave and resilient. And they're creating this to generate more income to look after their babies and grandbabies, and just in extreme conditions. And for me, Mia, to all of us that went through seasons where we lost so much. Like our books are our our baskets that we
Our
weave, baskets
baskets,
of hope.
yes. Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, we don't stress the point hard enough that, as a woman, it is empowering to be able to generate your own income.
Yes,
And it's, sometimes you you need it to survive, right? It's a survival skill, but we don't really I don't think we put a lot of focus on that. We think, well, the husband will be the provider. And then that's great. That's great. But what if that marriage doesn't work? What if you
exactly.
need some income? And, I got married very young. I was 21 years old when I got
Me
married.
too.
And so I just didn't, I never really had income. And looking back, that was a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And that's the thing, overall, why we're having this conversation is to say, even if you've got this very rich, wealthy husband, I do see, for myself personally, I will never stop working again. I would love to continue working, generate income, no matter my age. It does bring something to the table for me, emotionally as well, to know I am also bringing something to the table in a big way.
Yeah, I agree. I think it does something for your self-esteem
Yes,
to
yes,
know that you are responsible for generating money, and you're
yes,
you're earning money. You have skills that are worthy. And it makes you feel like you find your place. Makes you feel
exactly,
like you have a place, right? When you're just
exactly.
dependent on a husband. And if you are, that's fine, as long as that marriage is healthy, right?
Yes.
But if it's not a healthy marriage, then suddenly it's not fine if you're not able to generate that money for yourself.
Exactly. And to make the choices, that you don't have to beg someone to do stuff. I think that's a red light. And I do want to ask you, to share with us what do you think are red lights, for the controlling side of things. And just for everyone, we're not bashing men or any, this is literally just from experiences, but also to empower through what we do, because these are things I've had to learn the hard way as well. So if we talk about it, it literally is from our own experiences, not to bash anyone.
Yeah, very true. Red lights, I would say, if your husband and I know that men are also victims of narcissistic abuse,
Yes.
but I think for this conversation, we're kind of focusing on women. If your husband is making 100% of the financial decisions, that's probably not good.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the biggest red light for me looking back is just the mere fact that my ex did not want me to do anything,
Mhm.
really outside of the house. He really did not want me to have a little business. He didn't want me to earn income. And if you're in that situation, you do have to ask yourself why.
Yes.
Stop and ask yourself, why doesn't he want me to engage in hobbies and have a little side income? Why not?
Exactly.
What's the harm in that? And narcissists tend to, they're not proud of your accomplishments, and instead they want to undermine them. So you just have to ask yourself, why is that? Well, because it's threatening them, because it's threatening to strip their power away from them, and that's a red flag. Yeah.
And also, the afterwards, even after you broke up, I think we did touch, we did mention the smear campaign, and it really is an incredibly psychological war, even that you are, and especially if you engage with a narcissist. And also, like, my question would be, how do women build themselves up after being basically in this type of situation, like you, for many, many, many years?
I think after my divorce was final, at that point I went no contact.
Okay.
Again, my kids were grown, so we weren't dealing with kid issues. Um, but I think that no contact has been huge. He still tries to get at me. And I think he probably always will. Like we were
Okay.
talking earlier, they just can't ever let go of that wanting to see you suffer. But no contact is healthy, right? You just need
Yes.
to. It's not that easy to people say just put him out of your mind. Well, you can't when he's still kind of behind the scenes and he just is the sinister person.
Yes.
But you can't really. But you can cut all contact, and I think that's the first step to really rebuilding yourself is to find your identity outside of them because
Okay.
for years, while I was married, my identity was him.
Yes.
I didn't know who I was. It was all about him. So you do have to start finding out who you are and going no contact and cutting all communication, I think is the first step.
I love that. And also, I'm thinking like of these baskets, and I showed you some of the mugs that some of the ladies also painted, hand painted in Botswana. It's to find, what makes your heart go faster. Is it painting? Is it writing? What's good for your soul? And do something for yourself.
Yeah, it's so therapeutic when you can
Yes.
find something you love. And then if that something can also create some income, I
Yes.
mean, that's like the best of both worlds. You find something you love to do and you can make money doing it. I mean, that's a win. That's a huge win.
Absolutely. Mia, to anyone that's tuned in, that's contemplating, should I stay in the luxury, or should I make the move into the unknown? What three things would you advise someone that's sitting and listening now and thinking, listen, if I stay longer, this is just going to escalate?
Yeah, I would say you have to choose your well-being over the luxury. The
Okay.
luxury is nice, but it doesn't make you healthy. So you have to choose you over the luxury. And second, I would say, money's nice, but it's not everything. It's really not. And it's not worth being abused just to have money.
Yes.
It's just not worth it at all. And then I think thirdly, I would just remind women, especially, that even if you are being financially abused, you're not stuck. You can still get out. It's hard, but there are resources out there, and you can find people to help you. And don't let that force you to stay in a toxic marriage. You're not stuck. You can always find options.
Oh, I love that so much. Thank you so much for today. And Mia, for those who have enjoyed in our first episode, please will you give us a short summary of your book, should they want to purchase it?
Yeah, so I wrote this after I divorced, and basically it's a series of short stories chronicling from the time that I met my ex-husband all the way through our divorce. And I just want to give people kind of an insider point of view of what it's like to live day to day with a narcissist. So yeah, please check it out if you know someone who's going through that, or if you're going through it, or if you're just curious. Yeah, check it out. It's called Bridemaid, a Memoir.
Love that so much, Mia. I do hope to have you back very soon again. We've got so much to talk about, and this is why I created this whole series is to talk about these difficult conversations. It's not easy conversations, but it is to bring, the truth into the light. This is very real, and people with big smiles usually hide a lot of stuff behind them. The
That's very
smiles.
true. Very true. Yes.
And thank you so much for being brave. I thank you a lot every time, but I do have so much respect for your story and also for sharing it with us. And also for you who have joined in, feel free to reach out to Mia and purchase her book. Just know that you are not alone. These are very tough conversations to have, but this is where Mia's pain became her purpose.
Yes, thank you so much. And yeah, please reach out. And thank you so much for letting me come on again today.
I do hope to see you again soon. Thank you, everyone, for joining in to our Write and Shine, Shining Through Your Words author series, proudly brought to you by Write and Shine Media House. We had the honor to have Mia Hanks here again, and I do hope to see her soon. If there's something that you can take out of this whole episode, remember the baskets of hope. Remember that there's always hope. Sometimes you feel you don't have anything to give or anything to do even in this world. But there's always hope. There really is. And incredible people like me, I share their stories, and it's true. This is not things fabricated. This is from an authentic place to help others. And just know that you are not alone and that things, it might feel like things are falling apart, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And it's hard, but it's so worth it to make the difficult decisions sometimes. Keep on writing and keep on shining.
Just watch me shine.